morning. Welcome to another fresh edition of your breakfast from Leadership Television inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Webo, your host on the program. Without wasting much time, we'll delve into what the national papers are saying this Thursday, September 4, 2025. Of course, as we normally do on the program, we go straight first with the nation's most influential newspaper, Leadership. Incidentally, Leadership's leading story today is on the insecurity, especially in the north. And of course, not just Leadership, other papers on our lineup have that same leading story. We'll start with Leadership now. Northern leaders to Tinubu declare emergency on insecurity in north. Northern elders to Tinubu declare emergency on insecurity in north. That story continues on page 4 of Leadership. We just want to take some excerpts because we have an leadership analyst to throw more light on the leading story on Leadership and other papers as well. But let's take some excerpts from that leading story. It says the Northern Leaders Forum, NEF, has called on President Bola Tinubu to declare a state of emergency in northern Nigeria, citing the extraordinary scale of insecurity and the government's constitutional obligations to protect lives. The forum pointed out that government security agencies are overstretched, underfunded, and sometimes compromised, leaving citizens vulnerable, all of which erode public trust. In a communique signed on Wednesday by spokesperson Professor Abubakar Jidere, the forum expressed grave concern over the spate of violent attacks, abductions, and killings across the region, warning that continued inaction could threaten Nigeria's stability and regional peace. The NEF recalled the 19 August attack on a mosque in Ugua Maktau village, where armed assailants killed at least 27 worshippers during early morning prayers, leaving several injured and displacing hundreds. It also condemned the execution of 35 abductees in Zamfara State despite ransom payments, as well as 2 separate attacks in Kaduna State's Kaura and Kudan local government areas, which left 8 dead and 8 others severely injured. Jidere said these incidents are not isolated cases. Instead, they are part of a persistent pattern of organized crime, organized criminal violence, and banditry that have claimed thousands of lives, displaced hundreds of thousands of citizens, undermined food security, crippled economic activity, and inflicted deep psychological and social trauma on individuals and several communities. These are excerpts from the communique issued by the Northern Elders Forum yesterday. And of course, in the communique, they called on the President Bola Tinubu to declare state of emergency on insecurity in the north. Meanwhile, Daily Sun newspaper also has similar story like that of Leadership. Let's just say what Daily Sun is saying. Insecurity, Northern elders request decisive action. Beg Tinubu to address bandits' activities in region, fix security concerns across the country. President orders overhaul of security in Katsina State. We have leadership analyst Paul Wadima to throw light on the issue. Paul, good morning. Paul, good morning. Okay, we'll continue before we get Paul Wadima back online. Let's continue with the leading stories on the cover of Leadership. Northern elders to Tinubu declare emergency on insecurity in north. And of course, underneath that, we have government displaced 300, set 30 plateau homes ablaze. Talking about insecurity issues, government displaced 300, set 30 plateau homes ablaze. And the story runs on page 4 of Leadership. Still on Leadership newspaper, we have photos gracing the cover. Crushed vehicle conveying a family of 3 chased to death by touts under Mabuchi Bridge, Abuja yesterday. And the story says family of 3 chased to death by Abuja touts. Mob lynchings, 1 hoodlum, 2 arrested. That story continues on page 7 of Leadership. Federal government laments cancellation of Nigerians' US visas. Kwankwaso still open to joining APC, says NNPP rep. DSS arraigned 75-year-old man, 8 others over Benue Plateau killings. That story is also gracing the cover of other papers we have on our lineup: DSS arraigned 75-year-old man, 8 others over Benue Plateau killings. Northeast Governor Tinubu resume oil exploration in Komani, Lake Chad. Northeast Governor Tinubu. The story runs on page 14 of Leadership. Katsina Government Security Initiative trade words over meeting disruption. The story is on page 17 of Leadership. And on the business bus, transporters fume as marketers defend CNG price hike. Transporters fume as marketers defend CNG price hike. Transporters and vehicle owners using compressed view express frustration over the rising cost of CNG following government's price adjustment, which increased the price from 230 naira to 380 naira per standard cubic meter for transport vehicles, while trucks now pay 450 naira for standard cubic meter. This is even as marketers attribute the hike to the rising cost of infrastructure support and distribution challenges. Leadership findings reveal that marketers have adjusted the pump price of CNG across the country, while investor apathy weakens the spread of outlets. Excerpts from the business story on the business bus on Leadership cover. Transporters fume as marketers defend CNG price. Then we move to the masthead. About the masthead, presidency says non-oil sector accounts for 75% as total revenue hits 20.59 trillion naira in 8 months. 29 die in fresh Niger boat accident. That's what continues on page 7 of the paper. Dankaka as chairman of the Federal Character Commission, only to quickly replace her with Ayo Omidiban. Then he named Mrs. Tomi Somefun as managing director of Hyperdeck, but soon after reversed the decision. And just this week, he cancelled the appointment of Rotimi Pedro as Director General of NTA and returned Salihu Dembos. Why these constant reversals, Mr. President? Why? That is coming from the group managing director of Leadership newspaper group, Mwazu Elize, on his column today, Rapid Descent to Togri. Now we go to Ghana Must Go. On Ghana Must Go, Hadi Sirika says 2027, I won't join coalition plotting Tinubu's removal. And of course, Ghana Must Go asking, is that a bribe? Hadi Sirika, is that a bribe? Is an answer, is a question you have to answer from Ghana Must Go. It's on this note we conclude review of Leadership newspaper this Thursday. For more, log into www.leadership.ng. We'll continue with the review of front headline stories on Daily Sun newspaper. Customs rakes in 3.7 trillion naira in first half, promotes top brass 330,000 jobs. FCT imposes 5 million naira fine on illegal property conversion, vows street enforcement, pulls down Boulevard Park. EFCC declares Abia commissioner wanted. Boat mishap claims 29 lives, 11 missing, 50 rescued in Niger. Cows burnt in Abuja for causing accident of family of 3. Still on Daily Sun newspaper. Beneath the headline of Daily Sun, Africa overtakes Middle East as global terrorism hub. Military powers not enough to curb menace in Nigeria, Defense Minister Badaro. These are riders to the leading story, second leading story actually on Daily Sun newspaper. Just like Leadership newspaper, we have also stories on terrorism-related acts in Leadership. Africa overtakes Middle East as global terrorism hub. Military powers not enough to curb menace in Nigeria, Defense Minister and Badaro. Angry contractors storm Finance Ministry over unpaid debts. That concludes the review of front headline stories on Daily Sun this Thursday. For more, log into the website of Daily Sun, www.thesun.ng. From Daily Sun, we move over to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is the Daily Times. Daily Times still talking on insecurity. DSS arraigns 9 suspects over Benue Plateau killings. DSS arraigns 9 suspects over Benue Plateau killings. The story continues on page 2 of the Daily Times. Rescued Nigerian girl wants use against irregular migration. National Library, Nigeria's intellectual heritage must not depend on charity. ADC Task Force Lady. Corruption has eroded Nigeria's economic prosperity, Chatham House reports. U.S. government commits $32.5 million to UN World Food Programs in Nigeria. Of course, the U.S. government under Trump's administration has not entirely cancelled out aid to the developing countries. U.S. government commits $32.5 million to UN World Food Programs in Nigeria. That story continues on page 2 of the Daily Times. Nigeria ranks second in global cryptocurrency adoption. And with that, we move to the leading story, one of the leading stories on the cover, and is at top the masthead of the Daily Times. FCTA revokes all park allocations in Abuja, orders fresh screening. That story is on page 15 of the paper, and that also brings to a close the review of front headline stories on the Daily Times newspaper this Thursday. For more, log into the website of the Daily Times. We move ahead to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is The Guardian is still on the issue of insecurity. And The Guardian says federal government reopens debate on state police as Tinubu declares readiness. That story is on page 6 of the paper. Insecurity, federal government reopens debate on state police as Tinubu declares readiness. ADC forced Tinubu's charity plan for National Library. Zulum leads Northeast governors to Tinubu seek completion of 17 roads oil exploration. Digital lenders face 100 million naira fine for consumer abuse, data privacy violations. Airline operators define discriminatory expensive Yuletide flight tickets. Poly lecturers may withdraw services after ultimatum. Contractors storm Abuja demand 4 trillion naira payment for completed projects. We move towards the masthead of The Guardian. Non-oil growth accounts for 20 trillion naira income, says presidency. Constitutional review. Abbas unveils proposed amendments to southern stakeholders. DSS arraigns 9 suspects over Benue Plateau killings. With that, we conclude review of front headline stories on The Guardian this Thursday. For more, log into the website of The Guardian. Now we move ahead to talk politics, and that paper is the Punch newspaper. The Punch leading story says APC opposition clash over federal government's revenue growth claim. APC opposition clash over federal government's revenue growth claim. Present counterparts, presidency tells critics. Revenue nothing without results, opposition. Economists query Tinubu's no more borrowing assertion amid 13 trillion naira deficit. These are kickers to the leading story on the Punch newspaper this Thursday. APC opposition clash over federal government's revenue growth claim. Still on the Punch newspaper, we have the pictures of protesters marching during a demonstration organized by families of Israelis held hostage by Palestinian militants in Gaza Strip, demanding their release and for a ceasefire in the war in Gaza near the Knesset Israeli parliament in Jerusalem on Wednesday. Beneath those pictures, MTN 15 others remit 54 billion naira in education police taxes. 3 killed in Lagos Masquerader Festival clash. Terrorists recruited 1,364 West African children, shot 14,000 schools, according to UN. Beside the masthead of the Punch, security concerns behind visa cancellations for Nigerians, orders, US. Visa cancellations for Nigerians, orders, US. And atop the masthead of the Punch, my reforms have restored Nigeria's global respect, Tinubu. Non-oil revenue jumps 40% to 20.6 trillion naira presidency. NAD insists on strike, says over 2,000 doctors owed. That also concludes the review of front headline stories on the Punch newspaper this Thursday. For more, log into the website of the Punch newspaper, www.punchng.com. However, unfortunately, we couldn't make contact with leadership analyst Paul Wadiman to talk more on the leading stories on state of insecurity in the north and across the country. But hopefully, next time on the program, we'll be able to do that. Well, don't also forget to join us on this station for news on the hour. My name is Winifred Webo. Tomorrow is another day for another fresh edition of the program. Thanks for joining us.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God